New research reveals a 4,000-year-old city that got richer as it became more equal, and nobody can explain how.
Societies produce agricultural surplus. Surplus creates elites. Elites build monuments to their own power. Inequality rises. Power concentrates. The city grows, and at its center, a palace, a tomb, a pyramid, something that announces unmistakably that some people are more important than everyone else.
Egypt followed this formula. Mesopotamia followed it, China followed it, Greece followed it, Rome followed it, the Aztecs followed it, the Incas followed it. Every textbook on the rise of civilization essentially describes variations of the same pattern. The bigger the city, the more concentrated the wealth. The more concentrated the wealth, the more powerful the elite. The more powerful the elite, the more visible their monuments. A study published in May 2026 in the journal Antiquity by researchers from the University of York and Cambridge has produced evidence that one ancient city followed a completely different path, and the implications are not merely historical.
Mohenjo-daro, which means Mound of the Dead in Sindhi, sits in present-day Pakistan in the Sindh province. It was one of the largest cities of the Indus Valley Civilization, which flourished from approximately 2600 to 1900 BC. At its peak, it may have housed between 30,000 and 60,000 people, making it one of the largest urban centers on Earth during the Bronze Age, contemporary with the Egyptian Middle Kingdom and the Mesopotamian city-states of Ur and Lagash.
Since its rediscovery in the 1920s, Mohenjo-daro has puzzled archaeologists for a very specific reason. Every other major Bronze Age civilization left unmistakable evidence of its ruling class. Egypt left pyramids and pharaonic tombs packed with treasure. Mesopotamia left palace complexes, royal burial sites, and iconography of kings. Greece left temples and aristocratic burial mounds. Mohenjo-daro left none of these things. No confirmed palace, no royal tomb, no giant statues of rulers, no obvious political iconography declaring that one family or one individual sat above everyone else. Instead, archaeologists found something that struck them as strange. A city of apparently standardized brick housing, sophisticated drainage systems running beneath every street, public wells distributed throughout the residential areas, and a level of urban planning suggesting collective decision-making rather than top-down royal command. What was missing was as striking as what was present. The 2026 Antiquity study took a rigorous quantitative approach to a question that had previously been discussed in qualitative terms. The researchers, led by Adam Green from York and Cambridge, used geographic information systems to digitize excavation maps from early 20th century archaeological work at the site. They measured the floor areas of 309 residential structures and calculated Gini coefficients for different periods of the city's occupation. The Gini coefficient is the standard tool that modern economists use to measure wealth inequality. A score of 0 means perfect equality. Everyone has exactly the same. A score of 1 means perfect inequality. One person has everything. When you apply this tool to modern countries, the United States scores roughly 0.39. The Nordic countries score around 0.27. When researchers apply it to ancient cities using house size as a proxy for wealth, which is the best available measure in archaeological contexts, the results are illuminating. One of Mesopotamia's great city-states, scored 0.71, very high inequality. Ugarit, the Bronze Age Syrian trading city, whose last undelivered tablet we discussed in an earlier video, scored 0.67. These numbers confirm what the archaeological record already suggested. Bronze Age cities tended towards substantial inequality, with elite compounds significantly larger than ordinary housing. Mohenjo-daro scored differently. Its overall Gini coefficient was 0.44, already considerably lower than Ur and Ugarit. But the more striking finding was the trend over time. In the city's earliest phase, inequality was at its highest.
As the city grew larger, more prosperous, and more sophisticated in its infrastructure, the Gini coefficient fell. By the city's latest measurable period, the coefficient had reached 0.23, the same level found in early farming villages, which are among the most equal human settlements ever measured archaeologically.
As Mohenjo-daro got bigger and richer, it got more equal, not less, the opposite of what history's formula predicts. Intellectual honesty requires stating clearly what this research proves and what it does not. House size is a proxy for wealth, a reasonable one in archaeological contexts, but not a complete picture of social inequality. The absence of a confirmed palace does not prove there was no powerful governing class. It means we have not found one, which is a different thing. The researchers themselves are careful about this distinction. What the study does show, with genuine rigor, is that housing inequality at Mohenjo-daro was lower than comparable Bronze Age cities and declined over time as the city prospered. It also shows that this declining inequality coincided with investment in public infrastructure, the drainage systems, the wells, the standardized street planning, rather than in monuments to elite power. The city appears to have channeled its surplus into shared systems, rather than into individual display. The question the researchers cannot answer, and acknowledge they cannot answer, is how. Was there a governing institution that actively limited house size or redistributed resources? Was it an economic system that gave all residents equivalent access to land and construction materials? Was it cultural norms that made ostentatious wealth display socially unacceptable? The evidence points toward deliberate governance of some kind. The inequality decline is too consistent and too correlated with infrastructure development to be random, but the mechanism remains unknown.
Here is why this matters beyond archaeology. Modern economists and policymakers argue constantly about the relationship between economic growth and inequality. One influential school of thought holds that inequality is an unavoidable feature of growth, that concentrating wealth in the hands of entrepreneurs and investors is necessary to generate the capital that drives productivity and expansion. First, create the conditions for wealth accumulation, then allow it to spread. The opposing view holds that broad distribution of economic gains is itself a driver of growth, that when ordinary people have more purchasing power, more access to education, more security, they produce more, innovate more, and generate more sustainable economic activity than concentrated wealth ever can.
Mohenjo-daro, flourishing for 7 centuries from around 2600 to 1900 BC, offers a 4,000-year-old data point in this debate. The city appears to have grown and prospered over centuries, while its inequality fell rather than rose. The correlation between infrastructure investment, declining wealth gaps, and sustained urban prosperity is exactly what the second school of thought would predict, and exactly what most of our ancient historical evidence seem to contradict. This is not proof that the egalitarian model is correct. One city, over one period, measured through one imperfect proxy, is not enough to settle a debate that modern societies are still conducting with the full tools of contemporary economics. But it is serious evidence that the formula, growth requires inequality, inequality drives growth, is not as universal as history appeared to suggest. If Mohenjo-daro's model produced prosperity while maintaining relative equality, why did it not become the template that civilizations copied? Why does subsequent history look like Egypt and Rome rather than Mohenjo-daro? The most likely answer is uncomfortable. Centralized, hierarchical states with powerful elites and clear chains of command appear to be better at specific things that determine survival in the ancient world. Rapid military mobilization, aggressive territorial expansion, the extraction of resources from conquered populations to fund further expansion. The Mohenjo-daro model, whatever it was, does not appear to have been optimized for warfare and empire. It may have been optimized for something else entirely: urban quality of life, sustainable productivity, civic stability. History, written by the survivors, tends to look like the winners.
The winners, in the ancient world, were usually the militarized hierarchical states. But winning military and political competition is not the same as achieving the best quality of human life.
Mohenjo-daro's ruins do not contain magnificent palaces or royal treasures. They contain drains, public wells, standardized streets, the infrastructure of a city that appears to have been built primarily for the people who lived in it.
For 700 years, one of humanity's largest cities may have done something modern societies are still arguing about, grew richer as it became more equal. We still do not know how. We are not even certain we are reading the evidence correctly. But the question Mohenjo-daro leaves behind is more valuable than any answer could be. Does prosperity require inequality, or does inequality simply require prosperity to survive?